Here's the truth most new riders don't want to hear. If you're spending all your time on the street, but none in the parking lot, you're skipping the most important part of becoming a good rider. I'm Matthew from Autozium, and today I'm going to tell you exactly why you should spend more time in parking lots than on the street. And no, it's not just for beginners. The parking lot is where real skill is built. Let's get something straight. If you want to be a better rider, you have to stop chasing cool and start chasing control as in a parking lot. See, on the street, everything is reactive. You're dealing with unpredictability, cars swerving, people walking into the road, potholes you didn't see until you were right on top of them. It's survival mode. You're riding defensively, scanning mirrors, managing space, and hoping other drivers are at least half paying attention. And in that chaos, you're not learning much. In a parking lot, though, you're in control. No pressure, no cars tailgating you, no impatient honks, no distractions, just you, your bike, and the space to actually practice. This is where you refine your clutch control without worrying about stalling in front of traffic. This is where you can experiment with tighter turns, throttle inputs, braking distances, without the fear of screwing it up in front of a moving truck. It's quiet, focused, and safe. And that's the environment where real learning happens. It's like learning a musical instrument. You don't go straight to playing live on stage. You practice alone in your room, making ugly mistakes until it becomes muscle memory. Same deal here. You want to learn how to trail brake, how to do a clean U-turn, how to balance at walking speed? You're not going to figure that out in a busy intersection. But in a lot with a few cones and no spectators, you'll learn more in 30 minutes than you will in weeks of casual street riding. You're forging the foundation here, the instincts, the reactions, the feel of the bike underneath you. It's where thinking becomes doing, and eventually doing becomes second nature. So if you really want to grow as a rider, go where growth happens, not where distractions live. Low speed, high skill. Here's a truth most riders, especially beginners, don't like to hear. Speed masks poor technique. You can be cruising at 60 miles, slicing through traffic, and feel like a total badass, but that doesn't mean you're skilled. It means you know how to twist the throttle. True skill? It shows up when the bike slows down. Why? Because low-speed riding removes all the stability that momentum gives you. At speed, gyroscopic forces are doing half the work. The bike holds itself up. It smooths over bad throttle control. It forgives lazy posture. It hides poor balance. But slow it down, suddenly everything matters. How you feather the clutch, how smoothly you roll on the throttle, how you modulate the rear brake to steady yourself in a tight corner, how your body shifts and counterbalances when the bike leans underneath you. These things become critical, and they expose your weaknesses fast. And here's the thing. These are the very skills that keep you safe on the street. Most tip-overs and crashes don't happen at 60 miles per hour. They happen during parking, in U-turns, at intersections, or in tight, stressful situations. That's where poor low-speed control bites you. That's where panic sets in. That's where legs fly out and handlebars jerk. But if you've practiced those skills in a parking lot, you won't panic. You'll know exactly how much throttle to give, how to stay smooth in your inputs, how to turn without fear of tipping. Practicing low-speed maneuvers builds your technical riding ability in a way that casual street riding just can't. It teaches you patience, focus, precision, and that calm confidence translates directly to street riding, where real risk lives. So, yeah, go slow to get good. It's not flashy, but it works. Confidence starts here. Let's talk about confidence. Because if you're new to riding, you've probably noticed it comes and goes. One day, you feel great. The next, you're wondering if you even belong on two wheels. Sound familiar? That roller coaster feeling? Totally normal. But here's the fix most riders miss. Confidence doesn't come from riding more miles. It comes from knowing what your bike will do under pressure. And the only way to get that knowledge? Parking lot practice. Every time a new rider panics in traffic, it's usually because they skipped this step. They got their license, maybe passed a basic test, and then hit the road without ever truly mastering their clutch, throttle, or brake feel. They stall at red lights. They freeze in U turns. They plant both feet at every stop because they never learn balance at slow speeds. But a parking lot? That's your confidence gym. It's where you spend 10 minutes mastering the friction zone so you never stall in front of a car again. It's where you learn how to stop without jerking, how to start on a hill without rolling backward, how to ride so smoothly you feel like you're in sync with the machine. And when that happens, everything changes. You stop questioning yourself at every intersection. You start looking through turns instead of down at your controls. You relax because your body knows what to do, and you don't have to think about it anymore. Confidence isn't loud, it's quiet, it's subtle. It's that moment when you roll into a stoplight and don't even flinch, when you lean into a turn without hesitation, when you pull off a U turn in one clean motion and think, damn, that felt good. That kind of confidence, it starts in a parking lot every time. You get to fail safely. Here's the problem with the street: mistakes are expensive, sometimes physically, sometimes financially, always emotionally. Miss a shift in traffic, panic and grab a handful of front brake, drop the clutch too early on a hill. Any one of those can end in a busted lever, a scratched tank, or worse, an ambulance ride. That's why parking lots matter. It's the one place where messing up is part of the process, not a crisis. You can dab a foot during a figure eight and laugh about it. You can stall the bike 5 times in a row and nobody's honking at you. You can take a weird line in a U turn, overcorrect, and tip the bike over at walking speed. And the only thing that gets bruised is your ego. This kind of safe failure is vital because failure is how your brain and body learn. It's how you figure out where your limits are and how to push them without fear. When you mess up in a parking lot, you analyze it. You go, okay, I was looking down, or my throttle hand was too jerky, or I didn't counterbalance enough. Then you do it again and again until you get it. No real world traffic, no stakes, no danger. And that's not just good for learning, it's good for longevity. Riders who give themselves permission to fail in a controlled environment don't freeze up when things go sideways on the street. They've already failed 100 times in private. So when it matters, they stay calm, they recover, they handle it. So if you're nervous about practicing because you don't want to mess up right there in the parking lot, over and over, because that's the only way to ride better everywhere else. You'll actually ride better on the street. The best part about all those little parking lot fumbles, they make you smooth where it counts, on the street. Because once you've failed in a safe place and figured it out, something shifts. You stop guessing. You stop panicking. Your hands get steadier. Your body knows what to do without thinking. The drills you've repeated in that empty lot start showing up in traffic, on back roads, and even when you're dodging potholes in city chaos. Let's be honest, riding on the street is full of variables: unpredictable drivers, random obstacles, split second decisions. And if your only practice comes from daily commutes or weekend cruises, you're basically learning on the job. That's a rough way to build skill. But if you've taken the time to work out your throttle control in a quiet lot, you're not jerky at a red light. If you've practiced tight turns and U turns at low speeds, you don't need 3 lanes to flip around. If you've drilled emergency braking over and over, your body knows exactly how much pressure to apply without locking up or losing balance when something jumps out in front of you. That's the magic. Parking lot practice doesn't stay in the parking lot. It leaks into every part of your ride. You become more fluid in stop and go traffic. You corner with more confidence. You stop looking down in turns because your eyes and body already know where to go. Everything you do on the road becomes more intuitive because you've rehearsed it, refined it, and made it muscle memory. You won't just notice the change, you'll feel it. The bike feels lighter, the ride feels smoother. You're not reacting anymore, you're flowing. That's what real riding is all about. Not just surviving the ride, but owning it. How to make parking lot practice work. So now that you know how much better you'll ride because of parking lot practice, let's talk about how to actually make it work. Because here's the deal. This kind of practice doesn't need to be complicated. It just needs to be consistent and intentional. Think of it like a gym session, not a ride. You're not here to look cool or chase adrenaline. You're here to build fundamentals, muscle memory, automatic reflexes. That stuff doesn't happen by accident. Start simple. 2 or 3 focused drills per session is more than enough. Don't overload yourself with 10 things to try. Pick a few essentials, like figure eights, tight U turns, slow speed balance, or emergency stops, and really hone in on them. You're here to polish, not perform. No cones, no problem. Use tennis balls, chalk, water bottles, whatever's in your garage. Lay out a short course. Even a few marks spaced out can simulate the real world stuff: parking spaces, alley turns, traffic islands. Now get into the rhythm. First gear only, friction zone dialed in, rear brake feathered, and your eyes up, always up. You're not looking at your tire. You're scanning ahead, just like you'll need to on the street. And here's where you level up. Film yourself. Prop your phone against a jacket or backpack and hit record. Then watch it later. You'll spot things you thought you were doing right, but weren't. Maybe you're stiff in the arms. Maybe you're leaning the wrong way. Maybe your head isn't turning through the corner like it should. These tiny adjustments make huge differences, and they're easier to fix when you see them in action. Don't worry about perfection. You will stall. You will dab a foot. You might even drop the bike. That's fine, because unlike the street, there are no cars here, no curbs, no judgments, just you and your learning curve. Keep sessions short, 15, 20 minutes max. The goal isn't to exhaust yourself, it's to create repeatable, focused reps. Skills get sharper when your brain is fresh and your body is dialed in, not when you're burned out and frustrated. And most importantly, end on a high note. When you nail a turn or stop just right, call it. Leave the session with that win in your back pocket. That's what makes you want to come back tomorrow. So yeah, parking lot practice isn't flashy, but done right, it's the single best upgrade you can give your riding, and it costs you nothing. Even experienced riders benefit. One of the biggest myths in motorcycling is that parking lot drills are just for beginners, that once you've passed the test or survived a few thousand miles, you're good to go forever. But the truth is, experienced riders need parking lot practice just as much as newbies, maybe even more. Why? Because real mastery is maintenance. It's sharpening skills you already have. It's fixing bad habits before they bite you. And it's preparing for the things you can't practice on the street until it's too late. Think about it. Top tier motor officers, the riders who can thread 900-pound Harleys through an obstacle course like it's ballet, don't just wake up skilled. They drill constantly. Figure eight, U-turns, offset weaves, panic stops, day in, day out. Rain or shine? Racers? Same thing. They don't skip fundamentals just because they can drag a knee. In fact, it's because they never skip fundamentals that they can ride on the edge so precisely. Even coaches and instructors, you guessed it, they drill the same exercises they teach because they know if you don't use it, you lose it. Muscle memory fades, reflexes dull, confidence erodes, and nothing exposes that like a sudden, unexpected challenge on the street. Maybe you're an experienced rider reading this thinking, I've been riding for years. I don't need to mess around in an empty lot. But ask yourself, can you nail a full lock U-turn every time? Can you control your bike with one hand on the bars and one foot on the pegs at walking pace? Can you stop perfectly from 30 miles per hour in a controlled upright stance? Can you balance in place for 5 seconds without dabbing a foot? If the answer is no, or even sometimes, then guess what? The parking lot still has something to teach you. Even more importantly, practicing in a controlled space gives you confidence to push your limits safely. You can test your lean angle, play with throttle inputs, or simulate emergency scenarios, all without traffic, curbs, or consequences. It's controlled chaos, and it's the smart way to grow. And finally, parking lot practice reminds you why you ride. It's a reset, a space where it's just you and the bike. No pressure, no traffic, just technique, flow, and small wins that add up to big improvements. So no matter how many miles are on your odometer, don't skip the lot. Real riders train, and the ones who keep training, they're the ones still riding smooth, safe, and confident years down the road. So yeah, the parking lot isn't glamorous, but it's where you build the kind of control that makes the street less scary and riding more enjoyable. If you want to ride smoother, safer, and smarter, spend less time posing and more time practicing. I'm Matthew from Autozium. Ride tight, ride sharp, and I'll see you out there.